All right, thanks. Did you guys hear that song? It's pretty funny, right? Yeah. Woohoo. Have you heard that before? All right, well, this is it here, right? It's a love song about statistical significance, all right? Yeah, all right, so if you want to check that out, feel free to send that. The provost at UVA actually sent this to us. Pretty funny. Okay. All right, so let me get fired up here. All right, so, all right, I'll try and make this quick because clearly I'm between you and the bar, which is always a very dangerous place to be. So I had this philosophy. I'll talk about this for a second. So I've been, oh good, it works. All right. So I've developed a few data science programs. I did one at GW, and now I'm down at UVA helping them build programs down there. We have a school of data science at UVA. Do you guys know that? You guys know that? All right. Can I get a round of applause for that? Yeah. I feel like I just asked for applause for myself. Is that what just happened? Anyway, so I think it's the first one in the country. But as a result, you know, we have to, I've been thinking about, because we're designing a lot of programs, right? And we're saying to ourselves, you know, what do we want to teach? What do we want to be in terms of like the languages we're using? Have these conversations, okay? And so there's been some discussion in terms of like, hey, should we just be one language type of school? And I was just totally against that. I think the answer to this question, by the way, is yes, right? And so I've been having this thought and spirit in my head about how I can communicate that out. So I'm going to try and do that to you guys, because this is a user-friendly group, right? This is a target-friendly group. So I'm going to talk about this, this question, right, that I had up here, right? So really, does R, and really what I mean by R is not like R the language, but R the community, right? Does it encourage diversity? I think the answer is yes, so let's talk about it. All right. So just so you know, when I think about diversity, I think about it a whole bunch of different ways. This might be the least technical talk, all right, so the day, so sorry about that. But it's the end of the day, so maybe that's okay. So when I think about diversity, I think about it in all sorts of different ways, all right? I don't think about it just as gender, which certainly includes a race, but also like just multicultural background, and then also the domain with which you come from. Okay, so data about this is hard to find, so we're gonna try and use, and I have some, don't worry, I did do some analysis, and I have like an R markdown I'm gonna show you. So when I think about it, I think about kind of that way, like how is domain specific that encourages diversity, all right? So that's part of the way that we're going to approach it. So this one talks about, there's all sorts of research that supports this idea that diversity is just good for all sorts of ways, including profit and efficiency and all sorts of important things, all right? Not just for the general use of it, all right? So these are just examples of research. This is about how much gender backgrounds make a big difference, right? This one here too, I think. Okay, just so you know, I did my homework. All right. So as a community, we need to be cautious about how we move forward, all right? I think this is important to think about because in a lot of ways, it's a new field, all right? We feel like we're in it all the time. We feel like it's, you know, it's been around for a while, but it's new and it's still developing, right? We're building schools around it. And so this is kind of a bad graph. It talks about kind of the gender diversity in computer science. So it went up and then all of a sudden it went really down really quickly, all right? And so this is just a highlight of this is from data, I stole these slides just for the record, from the Department of Education, all right, as well. And so these are also some slides here that talk about, again, women in STEM fields. It looks like it's doing, I wonder if this works. No. All right, looks like we're doing pretty good up there in health-related and life sciences, but pretty bad in computer science and engineering. All right, the same here. All right, this is just general diversity as we're talking about in STEM jobs in general. Again, not what we would tend to like to see. So we have to be cautious about data science. So the question is, where is data science? And then I'll get to the R part about how I think R is helping. All right, now this is from General Assembly. So I said these aren't, you know, there's no perfect set of information here, all right? But this talks about kind of gender diversity in general, all right? And actually, data science up here, this is bad. That's not, we'd want that to be lower, even though data analytics is pretty good, which is kind of interesting, right? Okay, and over here, when we're looking about just kind of race, gender diversity, kind of data science is right in the middle, all right? Okay, so how does R kind of encourage these types of diversity conversations, or is it true that it could do that? All right, so I was looking to explore this, all right, and bring it to this community and talk to you guys about it because I think it's important. All right, so where do we go to get data? Right, we're just go to Kaggle. Okay, so that's what I did. So I don't know if you are familiar. Do you guys just want to listen to this again or no? All right, you let me know. All right. Look, there we go. And I do think all the presentations today are basically a dictation of my inadequacy for this, so I'm sorry about that. They're all making me feel insecure. Okay, all right. If you know, those who can't do, teach, right? So here I am. All right. So anyway, so there's these two really big Kaggle data sets, all right, from 2017 and 2018 that is a survey. It's like a data science survey. Have you guys seen this survey? Have you seen it? Okay. All right. So, all right. First point of order. All right. It's definitely biased. You know, so it's clearly not a perfect representation of the data science community. It's a representation of people who go to use Kaggle, but which maybe is okay. All right. So they did two of them. They were pretty big. One was 16,000 responses. Another was 23,000. And so I did a bunch of data manipulation and then stacked them on top of each other. There's a really nice package called Stack. I don't know if do you guys know that package? Stack? Hey, there you go. So I gave you, so Stack actually it takes these two data frames, it stacked them right on top of each other. It's just one way to do it if you want to do something outside of dplyr or tidyverse, which is kind of taking over. So I ended up with like 40,000 answers, and I reduced it down to just these 3 or 4 variables here: gender, majority, major. All right, and I had to read factor level major. Okay, so I put it into these big buckets. Also, there's a whole bunch of missing, and I did this at I did this at like 12:30 in the morning last night, so I'm sorry about that. So I didn't take out the missing values, but there's a whole bunch of missing, so I apologize for that. But anyway, so these are the big majors, and then as we kind of move down, we can see the percentages associated with the different languages, or these are counts associated with the languages. All right. So Python way up at the top, right? So Python is very high. We see R in terms of people responding. It's not 14,000, it's 4,600. Okay, but in general, we know that, right? That there's a larger base because it has more of a larger utility. Not utility, but for people that are using it more for different purposes, okay? And so this is a graph across, so these are different language usages. And so again, what I'm thinking about here, and just to clarify it, is that it's because R, in large part, and I think this is true, through my experience, it has a tendency to come from social sciences, statistics, people are using it in that space. And those fields in general have a tendency to be more diverse across the board, especially gender-wise, all right? So here, as we can see from computers, like here we see that a large proportion of what's going on inside computer science is Python related, right? And I think other people did this similar analysis online. And this is a bit hard to tell, but as we kind of move up into social sciences, right, and arts and humanities and in math and stats, the balance between Python and R has a tendency to be a little bit more even. Okay, as compared to down here, and then with this is pretty much all Python, and then R is represented slightly less. All right, and these are people that come from those domains. So this becomes a little bit more clear when we come down here and we just look at the percentages. Okay, so I was surprised by this one, but again, the data sample there is pretty small. But if we look across social sciences, all right, in terms of R and Python usage, it's not perfectly even, but it's pretty close, right? And we see pretty big disparities when we look at computer science, which is above it, right? Okay, or just below in terms of usage here. Okay, now keep that in mind when we referred back to the gender diversity inside computer science. So it looks like here, this is a good thing, all right? All right, does that make sense? All right. So, all right. Okay, so here's some more statistics, right, associated with this, all right, is that this is commits to GitHub in terms of, and a lot of this information is about gender diversity in general, but I think about it broader than that. All right, so you can see R here, all right, and this is information from this article here. You can see that the contributions for female contributors to R is pretty high. I mean, it's in general, this is all female contributors, but R is by far the highest one here, all right? I mean, it's still small in general, but it is higher, all right? Okay. And so let's talk, and these are things, like I said, you guys are probably familiar with these, you probably know it, right? But I think that when we think about the R community and the reason that it is so good, we need to make sure to support it, and basically I know I'm talking to everybody's on that same page here. But, these are points, all right? There's infrastructure, all right? There's a foundation, this comes from that same article, right? And that the R communities are very connected, and in particular the strength of the R ladies community, I think makes a big difference. And so when I think of all these things, even though I think in general, when we think about like what the overall usage of the different languages, okay, you can think of R as kind of like a market enforcer that has a tendency to create good behavior across the community, all right? So it's like these, have you guys seen that, maybe this is a bad reference, But there's like a documentary on beer wars. Have you guys seen that? And they talk about how the micro brews make a difference. Like they're actually creating good behavior in the larger beer market, right? They have to provide more variety. That might be a terrible analogy. I'm sorry about that. But I do think that because of the power base for R, all right, the strong community, all right, the natural tendency towards diversity, and then the tendency of it to be more in social sciences where there's more diversity in general, it makes it a really big positive market driver for the data science field in general, right? I know you guys are like, we're all there. I'm there with you too. R is definitely my favorite language, but I also think it's important for reasons just outside the usability. I think it has the ability to kind of impact good behavior across data science as the field begins to mature. Okay, does that make sense? Okay, all right. Okay, so there are other cool things too here. If you don't know about this, the R Foundation Task Force, all right. So for women and underrepresented minorities, right? So that's a task force that they're looking to encourage and facilitate ways to encourage more women of color and gender diversity to be in the R community, all right? So that's a very cool thing that's going on if you don't know. And then here's the last thing, all right? These are different ways that you can potentially continue, and I'm gonna give you guys some time back here to continue to contribute. You guys already know this already, but if it makes you, be more passionate about the R community, then that's great. All right, so continue to support it. There's an article here, all right, that shows ways that you can get grants if you're looking for that type of thing to actually encourage diversity in data science. So there's some statistical or some structured ways that you can actually seek funding to help build that. And then, a lot of us here are educators, all right, and we're building programs. And so I'm doing this consciously too, so I think it is important. We're kind of laying the foundation for how we move forward, all right? So be thinking about, and I think I'm preaching to the choir here, but build R to your programs and or at least think about different ways to give options. That's all I got. 8 minutes back. All right, great. Thanks.